Welcome back to another video reading Torah today. So we're on page 84. So one claimed I must eat first. I'll just show you the name of the Torah, this one. And it says, one claimed I must eat first, while another claimed I must eat first. Thereupon the largest arose, took the stick and broke them. Why do you mock me? He terror cried out. Have they any knowledge? Should not your ears listen to what your mouth is saying? He, Abraham, retorted. Genesis Rabbah 38:13. Sonsina translation or something like that. Don't know how to pronounce that word. One of the largest imprints left upon Jewish tradition by Genesis is found in the way that the story of Abraham's near sacrifice of Isaac, what Jewish tradition calls the Akedah or binding of Isaac, has affected the daily and yearly liturgical cycle. This story is recited during the preliminary praise of the daily morning service. Furthermore, the Akedah is the Torah portion read on the second day of Rosh Hashanah, the Jewish New Year festival that occurs each fall. In Jewish tradition, Rosh Hashanah is the time when God takes stock of all human lives and determines one's destiny for the next year. The reading of this Torah text on Rosh Hashanah suggests that all Jews recognize that God has a claim on their lives and he could choose to exercise any time. If one is given another year to live, this is an act of pure divine grace, like God's provision of the ram caught in the thicket that provided a substitute for the life of Isaac in Genesis 22. Thus, the community as a whole, as well as the individuals who compose the community, see themselves as only continue to exist by an ongoing act of divine grace. Examples of Christian use of Genesis. The importance of Genesis to the New Testament and Christianity is indeed great. Naturally, Jesus as a Jew and the early church initially as a Jewish sect would have assumed Genesis as a foundation for their thought, ranging in ideas from God as creator of the world, the value of all human life, Adam and Abraham as the primary ancestors of humanity, and Israel to God's election of Israel. Page 85 and 84. It is also clear that Genesis played an important role in the teaching of Jesus, and at times Jesus would use Genesis as a trump card in debates about the law or particulars of religious life. Just going to get a sip of coffee. I'm put my timer on so I know when I'm done. For example, as we mentioned in chapter 2, when the Pharisees test Jesus regarding whether divorce is permissible, they mention that Moses, that is, the Torah, permitted a certificate of divorce according to Deuteronomy 24:1-4. In this case, Jesus decides to counter them by appealing not to a specific Torah commandment but to the creation story of Genesis, arguing that from the beginning a man and woman became one flesh in marriage and not to be separated again. However, probably more than any other passage in Genesis, indeed Torah or even Hebrew Bible, the call of Abraham in Genesis 12:1-3 stands at the centre of Christian philological reflection. While there is little doubt that the passage is of utmost importance for Judaism as well, here the issues become murky in that each tradition tends to emphasize different aspects of the passage, and further, the above mentioned translational difficulty in 12:3 plays a pivotal role in each tradition's self-understanding. Christian philology has built much upon Genesis 12:1-3, in that many Christians see here the foundations of mission and God's bringing salvation to the larger world for both Jew and Gentile. There is little debate that the Jewishness of Jesus is important to Christian theology, and it is important precisely because he is a descendant of Abraham and eventually David, the one through whom the Messiah is said to come. That Matthew's Gospel begins with a genealogy mentioning Jesus' lineage to birth figures is not insignificant. The thinking in Christianity is that God will bless the entire world through Abraham, as cited in Genesis 12:3. As discussed in chapter 2, Jesus is seen as the seed of Abraham who would meditate God's blessing toward Abraham to the larger world. The Apostle Paul underlines his point in his reading of Genesis 15:6, where Abraham is said to believe in this promise of God, page 86 and 85. I'm just going to pause the clip.